Hey, what's going on, guys? All right, let's talk about the wind and how it almost cost me 200 bucks the other day. Now, this happened this last weekend, and anybody that's been driving any amount of time, or especially, you know, out here, out west, whether it be in a car or a truck or whatever, one thing that you'll come to know is that the state of Wyoming is windy all the time, all year. The weird thing about that, though, is that it's really, really windy during the day. It seems like as soon as the sun goes down, the wind dies. It's wild. Well, I started driving Saturday morning and was getting decent mileage. I only had 2 cars on here. Nothing was MP1, so it wasn't like crazy above my roof. And I was getting about 8 to 9 miles per gallon, which wasn't terrible. You know, to be headed west, which you're usually facing a headwind when you're headed west. It started to bump though a little bit the day before, so I actually told my wife I wish I could keep driving. I wasn't out of hours because I had such a good wind pushing me. The wind was actually coming straight from the east, pretty good. And so I mean, I was getting great fuel mileage. Well, I took off Saturday morning and I was getting, like I said, about 8 to 9. And when I got towards the west end past Sydney in Nebraska, it really started to get pretty choppy. And by the time I got to Cheyenne, and I fueled up when I left. When I got to Cheyenne, which was like 2 hours, 45 minutes later, 2.5, I already had to fill up again. And the wind was coming straight into the grill. It was a straight headwind. And it was on the weather app and all that, it was showing, you know, 28 to 30 miles per hour. There were actually signs posted that, you know, the gusts were 40 plus. So I kind of had to make a decision, because what I was noticing is that even it's fairly flat coming up to there, but even on flat ground, you know, it was having a downshift just to do. I was doing 70. I wasn't even doing the speed limit. I was having a downshift just to keep it 70. But when it wasn't downshift, I was ranging anywhere between. It was flipping between 4 and 5 miles per gallon, and when it would downshift, it would actually dump to 3 sometimes before it started getting some momentum built up. And with this truck and the 30-gallon tank, or 32, whatever it is, that 4 to 5 mile per gallon range is going to have me filling up every 120, 150 miles, and that ain't happening, because I was doing a 500 mile day that day. So I started kind of looking at my options there. You know, it's like, you know, I don't want to drive in this. You know, when is it going to die down? And it was showing that it was going, you know, it was going to be windy like that all the way up until sunset, and then it was supposed to cut off pretty good. And now this was at like 10:30 in the morning. So I weighed my options. Kind of, I had time to play with, so I went ahead and just shut it down, and decided to just start just pulling overnight. And that's what I did. And I went from getting 4 to 5 miles per gallon to immediately jumping into the 9s, you know, sometimes 10, and that's through the Rocky. That's not even on the flat spots, you know. I mean, that's through, you know, Rock Springs and all that, and straight into Utah. So that's something I wanted to point out. But another thing too is that to forecast the wind, you really can't do it that good on any of your kind of standard weather apps and all that. You know, to forecast the temperature and all that, but not so much the wind. But there's something that I've used for a while now, and I actually originally used it for hunting. I didn't even use it for driving, but I've used it several times since I've been driving, since I've been using it. Like I said, I usually use it for deer hunting. It's called WindFinder.com, and it is a website, and I'm not sponsored. This isn't a pitch for them. This is just me giving you a tool. But it's pretty cool. It's a website that'll show you wind direction, wind speed, but it will also forecast it, and it forecasts it pretty far forward. And like I said, I used to use it, or I still do. I use it hunting, and it's really accurate. And the cool thing about it too is that you can actually back it up. I think it's like 2, maybe 3 hours. I'll post kind of a display on here of me actually going through it on the laptop, so that you guys can see what it looks like. But it's pretty sweet. It shows wind speed, wind direction. It shows, like I said, it forecasts the wind pretty far out. Another cool thing about it is you don't have to look up anything by specific cities. You can just there's like a target you can put in there, and you can literally like follow the interstate with it. It's pretty sweet. So you can see, you know, you can use it to see if the wind's going to be against you, or you can actually forecast to be like, sweet, I'm going to get great fuel mileage today. You know, it's actually going to push me along the road. So, but what that was going to have me do is on a normal day when I'm going to fill up twice, you know, when I throw the miles in, that cut my mileage more than in half. So it was actually I was going to fuel up probably 4 times that day, and I'm going through Wyoming and Utah, up into Idaho. So that, you know, that fuel, especially right now, is pretty high up there. So I mean, that was, I'm averaging about $85 to $100, you know, for a fuel up. And if I were to have to do that 2 more times in one day to go the same distance, that was actually going to cost me $200. So it's one thing to keep in mind, guys, is the just weather, and it doesn't even have to be bad weather. It wasn't raining, it wasn't snowing, it was just really, really windy, and it was going to cost me, you know. So that's part of, I use this sometime when I'm trip planning, to kind of see the wind. Sometimes when you've got options, you can try to go with the wind or cut the wind in half, you know, instead of having it come straight on as a headwind, because it's going to kill your MPGs. And like I said, I didn't even really have anything holding back, you know. I wasn't tall. So that's something to consider, pulling some of these loads and driving some of these states. You know, it's like, especially when you're trying to figure out how much to charge for it, you got to take some of that in consideration, because that Saturday, if I wouldn't have pulled over and drove an overnight to get my normal fuel mileage back, would have cost me twice as much to run. So that's it, guys. Just want to give you a little tip there, as far as wind and a tool to use for it. And hope everybody's doing well, and we'll see you next time.